Working with reclaimed clay is one of the most interesting materials to work with in the studio. It carries a different kind of character compared to freshly prepared clay. Most times, it comes from scraps, failed pieces, trimmings, dried leftovers, or collapsed forms that were once abandoned during previous work sessions. Instead of throwing them away, they are soaked, broken down, mixed again, and brought back to life. And honestly, that's something deeply meaningful about that process on its own. One thing I have noticed about reclaimed clay is how plastic and responsive sometimes it can become when it's prepared properly because the clay has already gone through previous handling. The particles are often more broken down and evenly distributed. Once it is rehydrated and washed thoroughly, it develops a smoothness and flexibility that can feel incredibly satisfying to work with again. It stretches easily and also fails easily. It responds quickly to pressure and sometimes even feels softer and more cooperative than newly prepared clay bodies. But reclaimed clay also requires attention and understanding. Its high plasticity, in some cases, can be both an advantage and a challenge. If the moisture content is slightly too high, the clay can become overly soft and unstable on the way. Walls may collapse faster, forms may lose structure, and excessive movement can make the centering difficult. This is why proper drying and moisture control are extremely important when reclaiming clay. You cannot rush the process. The balance has to be right. Preparing reclaimed clay itself is already part of the learning experience. After soaking the scraps in water, the excess moisture must gradually evaporate until the clay reaches a workable consistency again. At this point, wedging becomes essential. Wedging helps redistribute moisture evenly, removes trapped air pockets, and restores structural consistency throughout the clay body. Without proper wedging, reclaimed clay may feel uneven, soft in some areas, and stiff in others, which can become the final outcome during throwing or hand building. What makes reclaimed clay special to me is that it teaches patience and resourcefulness. In pottery, not every failed piece is truly wasted. A collapsed form, a trimming pile, or a cracked cylinder can return to the table as usual as a usable material again. There is something hopeful about that. The clay gets another chance to become something different. And honestly, I think many potters connect emotionally with reclaimed clay because of that process. It reflects the idea that mistakes are not always endings. Sometimes they simply become part of a new beginning. You learn not to fear failure as much because even the pieces that didn't work still have value. Working with reclaimed clay also sharpens your sensitivity as a ceramic artist. Since reclaimed clay can vary slightly in moisture and consistency each time, your hands learn to pay closer attention. You begin to adjust pressure more carefully, observing texture more deeply, and responding to the clay rather than forcing it. In many ways, reclaimed clay teaches flexibility, not just in the material, but in the mindset of the artist working with it. At the end of the day, reclaimed clay is more than recycled material. It is evidence of process. It carries the memory of previous attempts, previous lessons, and previous experiences in the studio. Yet, despite all that, it remains workable, responsive, and full of potential. And that's one of the most beautiful things about clay. It always allows room to begin again.